Coming up next, Shrouded in Mystery. Today's featured track is one of the most enigmatic songs of the 80s, laced with alcoholic implications and featuring a self-destructing object of affection. You know, listening to the song is like listening to a ticking time bomb. It's melancholy, it's hypnotic, and it's highly addictive. This is one of those songs that you can play on repeat for hours. It's 80s nostalgia at its best, written by an iconic singer who felt it might be the best song he'd ever written, yet he kept it off his solo album because he thought another singer in his main band would perform it better. It became this legendary band's biggest hit, even though recording it took forever because of their perfectionist producer. That's funny. But what's the real story of this song? Did the tragedy portrayed in the song actually happen? Did the hot and heavy relationship between the model in the music video and the singer last? We unravel so many mysteries coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time, especially today. You know, if you remember trying to talk your parents into getting you Flintstone cereal or any other sugary cereal at the grocery store, you're gonna dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now, click the big red button, and click the bell so you know when our latest and greatest are coming out. We also have a Patreon. You're going to want to check that out. That helps us keep it a daily channel. You can become an honorary producer to help us curate this music history. So it's time for another edition of our series, The New Standards. This is the show that takes an in-depth look into songs that truly transcend genre, decade, and fads. Songs that are monumental touchstones in our culture and within our society. Today we're bringing you one of the best of 1984, a true classic, The Cars, Drive.
Who's gonna drive you home tonight?
The Cars, of course, consisted of singer-songwriter and guitarist Ric Ocasek, lead guitarist Elliot Easton, keyboardist Greg Hawkes, drummer David Robinson, and bassist and co-lead vocalist Benjamin Orr. You know, this iconic outfit, they had partnered with producer Roy Thomas Baker for their first 4 records. Of course, there was their self-titled debut in '78, Candy-O in '79, Panorama in 1980, and Shake It Up in '81.
I guess you're just what I need. Just what I needed. You said we stop and go. Since gone.
But for their 5th album, initially titled Who's Gonna Drive You Home, was later changed to Heartbeat City, the Cars joined forces with the talented Robert John Mutt Lange. Now, coming off blockbuster records with AC/DC, Def Leppard, and Foreigner, Mutt Lange was on a massive hot streak, one of the best ever, and the Cars were about to reap the benefits of his genius. The choice to work with Mutt Lange would prove to be highly profitable for this band. However, as they would discover, there were some serious drawbacks as well, particularly when it came to Mutt's obsessive nature. So it all started in the summer of 1983. Ocasek and company convened in London at Battery Studios with Mutt Lange. Accustomed to recording an album in a span of maybe a month or two, they signed up for a 2-month commitment there, thinking they could get it done. 6 months later, the band learned firsthand just how meticulous and exacting Mutt Lange's methods truly were. He would continually refine every detail in every song in search of that elusive perfect take. The rigorous process that left the band mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted. I mean, it took a couple of weeks just to put the bass tracks down. But in the end, Lange's drawn-out process actually worked. Heartbeat City had a perfect radio-friendly sheen that can only be described as 80s synth magic. Released in March of '84, Heartbeat City became the pinnacle of the Cars' success, sold nearly 5 million copies, and it climbed to number 3 on the Billboard 200. The record featured 6 singles, though. You might think, magic. Hello Again, Why Can't I Have You, Heartbeat City, and our feature track today, Drive.
You might think it's foolish. Oh, it's magic. Hello again. Hello. Why can't I have you? Nothing's wrong.
Drive, it's an enigma. It's a riddle wrapped within a mystery. It's dripping with emotion. I mean, this song is a melancholy masterpiece. Listening to it, it elicits both sadness and joy. Drive has this hypnotic, even addictive quality to it. It's one that's had me playing this track on repeat so many times. It's as if drowning in the song's beautiful melancholy one time isn't enough. I mean, have you ever done that? You just repeat and soak in a song till you're completely saturated by it. Drive's just one of those tracks. It never loses its luster, even when you play it over and over again.
Who's gonna pick you up?
Written by Ric, Drive was initially set for his solo album, the 1982 Beatitude. However, get this, it didn't make the final cut.
You can't go on thinking.
Apparently, one of the main reasons that Ric passed on it, not because he didn't think it was good, it actually was one of the best songs he'd ever written, but it's because he felt Benjamin Orr could do it better. He said Drive was something I was going to use for a solo album, but Ben and I both sang on demos for that, and I felt that he should sing that for sure. That was perfect for him. I loved his voice so much, he never sang off. He was like Frank Sinatra. He could hold the notes, the vibrato. He had what they called that radio voice.
When you scream.
Of course, Ocasek and Orr alternated the lead vocals on every single album by the Cars. And as the band's main songwriter, Ric clearly had the best instincts for his compositions, especially this one. But in hindsight, it just had to be Benjamin Orr. This is arguably his signature performance. There's no question. Benjamin Orr is one of my favorite rock vocalists ever. Charismatic and affecting, he was so expressive with his words. He made it seem effortless, like it was the most natural thing for him to sing straight into your soul.
When you call.
Said Orr, sometimes with the way Ric writes, you're conscious about doing a lyric in a particular way. At times it just comes off so naturally, you don't have to even think about it. It just sort of comes out of your mouth. It just flows. End of quote. And for Ben, Drive just flowed. He would say it was one of the easiest songs he'd ever recorded or sung.
Nothing's wrong.
So let me take a second to mention our sponsor. I wasn't attentive to online security until I got hacked and suddenly all my socials and sensitive information was compromised. It was a nightmare. When that happened, I searched for a solution so it would never happen again. The solution for me is the sponsor of today's video, Aura, intelligent digital safety for the whole family. The setup was easy, and then Aura sent me alerts warning me of any suspicious activity. I mean, let's face it, everyone is constantly online and vulnerable to fraud, virus, identity theft, and data brokers to sell your vital information. I don't know if you saw this, but AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. They recommend those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura does all this for me. And best of all, I don't have to download several different apps just because a company couldn't keep my data secure. If my info was compromised in the AT&T data breach, I wouldn't worry because Aura is always on, always doing the hard work of keeping me safe. I value my privacy and I value yours. Go to aura.com and start your 2-week free trial. You can also find a link for Aura in the description below and right up here.
Aren't so great.
Since its release in 1984, the meaning of Drive has been the subject of a lot of conjecture, adding to the song's enduring intrigue. Is this Ocasek's girl in the song? Is it an ex-lover? Or maybe just someone he doesn't want to see get hurt? Song's also laced with alcoholic implications. For example, when Benjamin Orr sings, "Who's Gonna Drive You Home Tonight?"
Drive you home tonight.
Whatever the case, Drive's girl appears to be on the brink of self-destruction, making choices that will do irrevocable harm. She appears to be refusing any and all offers for help here. Who's going to tell you when it's too late? Who's going to pick you up when you fall? Those are the lyrics.
It's too late.
The implicit answer seems to be that no one will. What gets me here are the haunting last call vocals that repeatedly sing bye, 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 as if to say that this girl has just thrown away her last chance for help. There's a lot there. So there is an unsubstantiated story, an urban legend, if you will, about Drive. It claims that it's about a girl Ocasek met at a party. I guess this girl was getting ready to leave the party with a guy who had been drinking, and he was in no condition to drive home. And Ric pleaded for her to let him drive her home instead. But no dice. The tale comes to a tragic end when the drunk driver crashes the car and the girl is paralyzed for the rest of her life. Now, I've never found a source to confirm this for sure. It makes for a compelling story, though. Back in the 80s, Ric stated in an interview that his songs can be inspired by real people and experiences. However, that wasn't his typical approach to writing. He also said that there's a lot of fiction in his songs. So maybe some real event triggered the song, but my guess is that Drive is primarily a product of the songwriting process, true life mixed with poetic license. You know what? Drive can mean whatever you want it to mean, as Ric said. That's the true beauty of its ambiguity. Now, the music video for Drive, directed by actor Timothy Hutton, if you remember him, that only adds to this song's mystique. The clip opens with a dramatic black and white shot of Benjamin sitting behind a table in a rundown bar. It soon becomes clear that he's the only one there. Of course, not counting the mannequins, kind of creepy there. But as incredible as it is, Orr turns in a captivating performance without ever standing up or really moving. And if that was all there was to this video, it'd still be iconic. His performance is that good. But there was more. Running parallel to Ben's lonely barroom concert is Ric's pained interactions with 18-year-old Paulina Poroskova, which tell the story of a couple in the grips of despair. According to Ocasek, the band screen tested about 2 girls for this part, and Paulina Poroskova blew everybody away. Said Ric, she felt right into the part, like she was born to do it. Paulina's performance adds even more depth and mystery to the song as she cycles through emotion after emotion. I mean, at one point, she's nearly swallowed up in madness. Ric Ocasek was completely smitten by Paulina, who wouldn't, and she in turn was just as taken with him. In fact, in her biography, she explained that she had a thing for Ric Ocasek before shooting the music video for Drive. Paulina had actually seen Ric on an earlier MTV video, Something to Grab For, and she fell for him then. But she had no idea that he was the co-lead singer of the Cars. In fact, she'd never even heard of the band. So imagine her surprise when just a few months later she met the man from the video where she was crushing on him. She said the moment she met Ric, she knew he was the man that she was going to marry. From then on, the story gets as complicated as the relationship in the actual song. More on that in a second. But the two became a couple and they married in 1989.
Who's gonna hold it down when you...
As for Drive, it was the 3rd single released off Heartbeat City, and it went to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. That's right, the Cars never had a number 1 hit. Additionally, it also reached number 3 on the mainstream rock chart, number 4 on the Cashbox chart, and it did go to number 1 on the AC chart, though. All this made Drive the highest charting Cars single ever. Internationally, Drive climbed to number 15 in Sweden, number 12 in Netherlands, number 11 in South Africa, Belgium, and Finland, number 10 in Australia, number 9 in Norway, number 8 in Austria, number 6 in Canada, number 5 in New Zealand, number 4 in the UK, and number 3 in Ireland and Switzerland. I mean, it was a global smash.
You can't go on thinking.
So in July of 1985, the Cars appeared at Live Aid at Philadelphia's RFK Stadium. Now at the height of their popularity, the band was playing to a crowd of almost 100,000 fans there and close to 2 billion via satellite broadcast. It was an incredible performance. The set included You Might Think, Just What I Needed, Heartbeat City, and of course Drive. And Drive was certainly a highlight of this mega concert, or at least it would have been if Phil Collins hadn't stole all their thunder. So while the Cars were playing their set, the broadcast cut away so that viewers could watch Phil Collins arrive via Concorde jet from London, where he'd played Live Aid Wembley Stadium in London. playing Live Aid on 2 continents on the same day. I mean, it was a big deal. And I love Phil Collins, but that coverage, it was completely unnecessary. They could have just said it.
Drive you home tonight.
But despite the interruption and a messed up line by Benjamin Orr, Drive was truly a memorable performance there. And the song received additional exposure when it was used as the backing music in a heartbreaking video about the Ethiopian famine. Like David Bowie, who was so moved by the footage and the use of the song, he introduced the short film and even cut his own set short to make room for it to be seen. As it was, the Live Aid exposure pushed Drive right back up the charts in '85, where it claimed the number 4 spot in the UK. The band donated the proceeds of the single's re-release to the Live Aid cause, with Rick himself presenting a check for £160,000. Very cool. So what happened to the Cars after Drive came out in the 80s? Well, the band followed up their smash hit with 3 more singles from Heartbeat City. Hello Again went to number 20. That was the highest from those 3. And then the Cars released their epic greatest hits collection in late '85, and that featured the number 7 hit Tonight She Comes. But during this time, despite their rising popularity, the Cars were more or less on hiatus. Friction had been building over songwriting royalties and touring schedules, and relationships were not what they used to be, especially between Rick and Ben, which to me is one of the saddest stories of the rock era because the two of them were such a perfect combination in this band. Ocasek released his second solo album, This Side of Paradise, in '86, and in 1987, Orr released his own solo record called The Lace. Much better together. They were good solo records, though. Then after a 3-year sabbatical, the Cars reassembled for their 6th studio album, Door to Door. That dropped on August 25th, '87. It would be their final album featuring the original lineup. For this one, there was no Mutt Lange reunion, as Rick took the reins as producer. Door to Door reached number 26 on the Billboard 200 and gave the Cars their final Hot 100 hit, You Are the Girl. That one peaked at number 17. The following year, the group officially broke up.
You are the girl that keeps me up at night.
So fast forward to the year 2000, and sadly, we lost the first of the Cars' 2 legendary frontmen. Benjamin Orr, who passed away on October 23, 2000, due to pancreatic cancer. He was only 53. And he was a rock and roll soldier to the very end. Ben played his last concert in Anchorage, Alaska, and then a week later, he died at his home in Atlanta. I remember being so disappointed that there wasn't much fanfare at all from the media or from news organizations when he passed. Not like Bowie or Prince, not even close. You didn't see tributes on the magazine racks or on the news at all, which was ridiculous to me because Benjamin Orr was one of the greatest singers of his era, and the Cars were one of the definitive bands of the late 70s and 80s. I mean, he certainly deserved much better. Ric Ocasek's death would follow nearly 2 decades later on September 15, 2019. Rick was found lifeless in his home in New York. He was 75. The medical examiner's office said the cause of the death was heart disease, with emphysema as a complication. There wasn't a lot of fanfare with Rick's death either, though more than there was with Benjamin Orr's, I think. But sadly, by this point, Rick and his wife, Paulina Poroskova, were separated, just as recently as 2018. Reportedly, things had not been going well for the rock star and the iconic Drive actress. And as a result of their long-standing marital difficulties, Ocasek shocked Paulina by leaving her nothing in his will. Said Paula, and I quote, "My husband of 30 years suddenly died. A day later, I found out he'd cut me out of his will, claiming I had abandoned him. I was consumed with grief and anger. I could think of nothing else." End of quote. It's truly a sad, sad ending to a relationship that could not have had a more iconic beginning. Still, in spite of this tragic twist, all of us look back with fondness on Drive, and its emotionally power-packed video for sure. Rick and Paulina gave us an unforgettable performance. And Ben? Always the epitome of cool. Drive is one of those haunting and melancholy songs of an era that's filled with great ones.
Drive you home tonight.
As I look back on this tune, the meaning to me, it's definitely changed over the years. I mean, when I heard it as a kid, it was entirely different. It was this great slow song. I mean, I was mesmerized by it. But now, having gone through decades of experiences, both good and bad, highs and lows, Drive to me is all about the loss of the innocence of that glorious decade, the 80s.
Who's gonna drive you home?
This song moves me in a way that few others can. It just transports me to a state of blissful euphoria. I feel a deep yearning to return to those days, the 80s, but knowing that the song eventually has to end and I can't actually go back. The only thing I can do is play it again and bask in the memories that only this song can evoke in that way. I mean, songs are the closest thing we have to a time machine, and Drive is pure potent nostalgia. God bless Benjamin Orr and Ric Ocasek, two legends that together invented the 80s and the late 70s. Thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about the Cars and Drive. What are your memories of the song? What do you think about this song and about how it was put together? And to me, it's the definitive song of that year, and it's just one of like 10 songs that define the 80s for me. What about you? Let's have a great discussion below. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We would love to have you. Until next time, 3 quarts and the truth, my friends.